It's finally here. After years of speculation, the first trailer dropping, and then months of waiting that feel like they've taken forever, Transformers 1 is finally here, and I'm so, so excited to see it. Finally, not just a fully animated theatrical release based entirely on Cybertron, but finally a Transformers movie that explores the origin of how Orion Pax and Megatronus, oh, and D16 went from best friends, basically brothers, to the mortal enemies of Optimus Prime and Megatron. And frankly, I don't think I could be any happier. The trailer's already looked amazing. So the first trailer dropped, and a lot of people hated it because of more comedic tone. But based on what we knew the movie was going to be, like the story it was supposed to tell, we knew that the comedic tone was more so just easing people into the fact that this movie isn't going to be all serious all the time. And I was completely okay with that. Even my buddy Spartan, who generally doesn't like when Transformers is more goofy and whatnot, like G1 or so. When he's not a fan of like G1's goofiness and stuff. But this movie, like, even he was sitting here like, yeah, this looks like it's gonna be good, and we know where it's gonna go by the end of it. Then the second trailer dropped about a month ago, I believe it was, and that trailer was even better. And I watched that thing probably like 20 times throughout the span of that day. I haven't watched it since because I almost ran into what I think is a spoiler, and I really, really hope it isn't. But also, a part of me really hopes it is because if that spoiler that I saw was true, then holy shit, that's going to be freaking amazing to see. And even if I know it's happening, I'm still gonna lose my freaking mind if it happens. If the possible spoiler was real. But anyway, um, so Transformers One. Well, not at the time of recording, but by the time this goes out, the movie is finally here. I'm excited. Me and my friends are gonna see it. But I wanted to make this video, um, basically to talk about my personal love with the Transformers movies and rank them from my least favorite to my favorite. Now, you can go ahead and take your guesses. So there's 9 Transformers movies in total. In release order, there's the Transformers the movie, Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, Dark of the Moon, Predacons Rising, Age of Extinction, The Last Night, Bumblebee, and Rise of the Beasts. And then Transformers 1 is coming out. And I'm ranking them from my least favorite to my favorite. And for the most part, this list is definitive. There's a little bit of wiggle room with numbers 7 and 6, but we'll explain that when we get there. But yeah, this list is pretty much my definitive list ranking of the Transformers movies. And based on what I've seen from people online, except for one company, this movie is going to be the Transformers 1 is going to be the best Transformers movie yet. Like even people who saw Rise of the Beast and were like, yeah, this was great. Like they almost immediately started coming out of the woodworks and saying like, yeah, the movie was fine, but not that good. You'll see my opinion when we get to that. But like every single person who got like an early screening of Transformers 1 is saying that the movie is phenomenal. Some of them saying the best Transformers movie yet. One person even put it at the top of his Transformers ranking. I think it was either Paper Plane or Raging Nation. It was some like bigger name Transformers YouTuber who put Transformers 1 at the very top of his list of the movies. And that just says it all right there if you ask me. Because Rise of the Beast, I think he had it like number 6 or 7 or something. So that was crazy. But yeah, so here's my ranking of the 9 theatrical, well, not all theatrical, the 9 Transformers films that have released from the original movie up to Rise of the Beast. And if you like Transformers movies too, leave your list in the comments. I'd love to see it. But anyway, let's get started with number 9. What can I even say? Honestly, out of every movie in the Transformers pantheon, this is the one where there's a lot less for me to like than to dislike. Remember when I said I'd be hard pressed to call any of these movies bad in my opinion? Well, I'm hard pressed with this one. Yeah, there's things to like. Megatron looks fantastic. I have the toy of Mohawk for what that I have the toy of Mohawk for whatever that's worth. The Decepticons have a ton of personality, and this is the one version of Hot Rod my friend doesn't absolutely hate with every fiber of his being. But other than that, the movie just feels kind of bored with itself. A lot of plot elements make no sense at all, and the timeline is sloppy at best, and the movie just feels like a collection of things just happening with no rhyme or reason to them. Even the final battle, which usually is a spectacle to watch, was mostly just kind of decent. It would be nice to see any kind of resolution to the one, two, three cliffhangers that the movie ended with, but the last night ended up being a financial flop, and we're never going to see Transformers 6, especially after this recent news. This movie series should have just really been a trilogy, but thanks a lot, Paramount. Greedy bastards. Honestly, this was a toss up between these next three movies. While I do like this and the next two entries, these are the three that left me feeling wanting more in terms of not being fully satisfied with the overall product. But one leaves me ever so slightly less satisfied than the other two, and that is the original The Transformers, the movie. The opening 20 or so minutes is some peak Transformers, I'm not gonna lie. From the attack on the shuttle, despite the death of my beloved Ironhide, was freaking awesome. And the song Instruments of Destruction genuinely should just be the Decepticons theme song at this point. The opening battle in Autobot City was even better, with introductions to new characters. Getting to see the Dinobots versus Devastator on big screen, and the introduction of Cup. Yeah, Cup. And Springer. I like Springer a lot. And the introduction of RC, who is to this day the most prominent female character in the Transformers franchise. Can't think of anybody else to introduce, but it's all good. Unfortunately, after that, the movie is just kind of okay. It mostly feels like different episodes of the TV show just happening, and then somehow managing to come together in a coherently, sloppy, neatly wrapped mess. It's not bad by any means, but by the end of the movie, I was kind of hoping it would have been something better, you know? Oh, man. And being this low, damn, it sucks. Alright, so Rise of the Beast being this low on the list genuinely hurts my feelings. I love Beast Wars and was extremely excited for this movie. Plus, it's the first new Transformers movie that Spartan and I saw together in theaters. Opening night, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it was opening night. And I remember that when we walked out of the theater, we were overall satisfied. But over time, we've seen more and more issues with the movie that we've had personally. For me, the biggest was a lack of the Maximals really just being awesome. I mean, hell, Air never transforms. Rhinox has no speaking lines, and my two favorite Maximals, Raxrat and Dinobot, they're not even in the movie. The Terracons were cool until they weren't. They got done dirty in the final battle. Nightbird and especially Battletrap got killed way too easily. I was hoping for Battletrap and Rhinox to have an earth-shattering 1v1, let me tell you. And And this Optimus tries to do what another live action Optimus was, but in this movie, he really just had no reason and was just being racist towards the human race out of nowhere. And Pablo. Okay, so on to the positives. Scourge, while unexplored, was a great villain. The ass whooping the Autobots took at the museum is still a fun fight to watch. Mirage is arguably the most fun live action Autobot to date, with only a possible two topping him. We'll get to them later. Overall, again, much like 86, Beast isn't a bad movie. I still like it despite the flaws and shortcomings, and it's still really fun, but I really was just hoping for more. It doesn't help that we even see cut content that never got released, like the Optimus versus Transit fight. That would have been really cool to see in film. But you know how crunch is sometimes. Alright, I'm not gonna lie, a small part of me wishes this movie did not exist. So Transformers Prime is one of, if not my favorite show of all time. And that's saying a lot considering the competition. The show has amazing writing, a fantastic storyline, visually spectacular action, and a perfect finale. The last scene of the show couldn't have been better if they tried. And yet they decided to follow it up with a movie based entirely on Cybertron. Serving as the epilogue and true ending of Transformers Prime, Predacons Rising sees the return of the deceased Megatron and hibernating Unicron. Now, stick with me here, alright, because this is where it gets cool. Awesome. Unicron possesses an upgrade to Megatron's corpse, giving himself a physical form so he can go to Cybertron, kill the Autobots, and destroy the planet's core to kill Cybertron permanently. Optimus and Wheeljack go out into space to search for the Allspark to restore Cybertron permanently, while Bumblebee stays on Cybertron with the remaining Autobots to defend it against Unicron, Starscream, Shockwave, and a trio of Predacons. That's just the premise. That's not even going into detail. And overall, the movie is pretty good. The final battle, especially, where Optimus and Prime and the conscience of Megatron work together to expel Unicron from Megatron's body and imprison his dark spirit for good, which is awesome. And then the movie has to end with, in my opinion, the most heartbreaking death of Optimus ever put on screen, as he sacrifices himself to reunite the Allspark with Cybertron's core, bringing life back to the planet once and for all. While not as perfect of an ending as the show, it was still quite good with an ending that was still at the very least satisfying. And I guess that's all I can really ask for. So, fun fact, I did not like this movie very much on my initial viewing, back when it first came out. But now, 10 years later, it's pretty damn good. Though honestly, I was hooked with the very idea of the Dinobots. I remember I had first heard of the Dinobots via the Fall of Cybertron video game, one of my favorite games of all time, but that's a story for another day. But literally a day after I learned about the Dinobots, the first teaser for this movie dropped, and it was like a premonition. As for the movie itself, yeah, it's got a lot to like and a lot to hate. In terms of hate, honestly, I think the whole movie would just be far better if Tessa and Shane didn't exist. I hated everything about and involving these two cringe ass chuckle fucks. Do I even need to explain the gas station scene and why everything about that is wrong? Just absolutely terrible. But, on the other hand, this movie has some of the best action scenes in the franchise. The new Autobots are awesome, Frank Welker finally makes his live action Transformers appearance, and the KSI drones as Vehicons was a really cool concept that made sense as to why the Autobots are just fighting Decepticons again, despite what happened in the movie just earlier. And most of all, this is, in my opinion, the best live action appearance of Optimus Prime. His fear, pain, anger, and regret for everything that has happened since his arrival on Earth. You can genuinely feel it in his character. And out of everything he's done in this movies, all the suffering he's endured leading up to this movie, this is where his controversial violent tendencies are the most justified in all the films. I've never been one to say Optimus is wrong in these movies, or that he's a war criminal, or a psychopath, or he enjoys killing, because he's not. He's a soldier who does whatever it takes to save lives and preserve the future. He was the one who had to suffer at the hands of those he swore to protect, and I will always say he is right in everything he does in this film. End of discussion. Oh man, these next two were really close. Like you thought that Transformers the movie and Rise of the Beast were close? No, these two were close. It's practically splitting hairs here. But the hair at number 3 is slightly nicer than the hair at number 4. And the hair at number 4 is this one. I remember I was 8 years old, minding my own business on a random sunny day when my mom called me up to her room saying it was urgent. I remember I ran upstairs to see what it was that was so important and see if I could help her in any way. Because usually when my mom said something was urgent, that means she needed my help with something, right? Said urgency was showing me this without any hints as to what it was.
You don't stop, you don't hide, you run. You hear what I'm saying? We're all going together!
I was shook. They were really making a second Transformers movie. And it was going to be darker and more epic than the first. I remember my first thought walking out of that theater was that was even more fun than the first one. And to this day, hell yeah, it's still fun. Really fun. Yeah, it's got its problems. A few points feel loose or sloppily put together. Um, this, I'm not going to pretend to be perfect or even anything great from a critical perspective. But with amazing action, an amazing score, and arguably the highest stakes out of all the movies, and introducing me to more Transformers character than any other movie, how can I not love it? Not to mention, it has the two funniest characters in the whole franchise. Yeah, I should probably explain myself here. So, these are the twins, Skids and Mudflap. They are highly controversial for being stereotypical caricatures of black people. Among the general populace, they are arguably the most hated characters in the franchise. But here's the thing, I don't care that they're stereotypes. I know and as well as many other black Transformers fans, have little to no issue with them. And frankly, I find them freaking hilarious. Also, they fought Devastator and survived. And we know they would have survived that fight because they were supposed to appear in Transformers 3. So, how bad a character can they really be, right? They are some awesome characters, and I'm tired of people saying they aren't. Revenge of the Fallen is just an awesome movie, and I'm tired of people saying it's not. Alright?
Let me tell you something. A driver don't pick the car. Car pick the driver. It's a mystical bond between man and machine. It's a mystical bond between man and machine.
Could there have been better way to open up the trailer for the Bumblebee movie? I remember when this was first announced, I saw nothing but cash grab schlop. Bumblebee has overtaken Optimus as the face of this franchise. There's no way a movie about this guy could work. And then the first image appeared online. This is when I knew this movie was going to be special. And damn it, it was. Now, let's get the overblown worship point out of the way. Yes, the opening scene on Cybertron is super fun, and I love pointing out all the characters that I recognized. They showed off Ratchet, RC, Cliffjumper, my boy Ironhide's in the background. They even brought Brawn back. Brawn of all characters. As far as I know, he hasn't been in any Transformers media since his death in the original 1986 movie. So bringing him back, yeah, that just showed me like, yeah, they really want to tap into the 80s market here, but without a way that feels like they're just saying, oh, G1's the best. No, they're doing it in a way that feels natural for a movie. If I recall correctly, these are designs that have been coined as evergreen, I believe. Yeah, evergreen designs. I'm not 100% sure if the movie designs are evergreen, but they definitely should be categorized among that. You know, the designs that feel reminiscent of G1, but clearly are doing their own thing. But anyway, moving on. Yes, that opening scene is fun. It's awesome, and it's full of so many characters that you'll just love seeing. Very reminiscent of their G1 forms. Now, with that out of the way, can G1 fans please talk about the rest of the movie? Like, let's talk about how Shatter and Dropkick are absolutely terrifying villains. Shatter is smart, tactical, manipulative, and very, very powerful. She only has very, very minimal fighting time fighting Bumblebee, but when she does, it's vicious, brutal, and just downright amazing to watch. And Dropkick, oh, dude, look at this scene. Look at this. How can you tell me this isn't awesome? Or let's talk about how Charlie is an amazing human character. You know, the human characters in the Transformers movies, they've always been controversial or polarizing among fans. Charlie is the only one who I don't think I've seen anybody have any negative opinion on. I think everybody can agree that Charlie is a good character at the very least. Can we talk about how lovable this version of Bumblebee is? Now, as much as I love my '07 Bumblebee, I genuinely think this is my favorite live action movie. Specifically in this movie. Rise of the Beast is a different story, but in terms of live action, I think that the Bumblebee movie version of B is my favorite live action iteration of him. Or we could just talk about how fun the movie is overall. It's got a bunch of 80s pop culture references that feel kind of naturally fitting into the movie and not like some other films that just bring up talking points that people have had about the 80s and call it a day. Or how this is literally the best face design that Bumblebee has had in the movies. Like, I personally don't mind this one, but this is definitely better. Or let's talk about how fun Agent Burns is. I mean, crying out loud. He's the first human, I'm pretty sure in the whole franchise, to point out how we should never trust something literally called a Decepticon. Even I pointed out that a long time ago, yo, I'm realizing this like a long time ago. Take out the second C and you just have the word deception, and you're telling me people are gonna trust these guys? So when Agent Burns called out that point, yeah, that was a fun moment. So yes, again, the Cybertron stuff is great, really great. But there's so much more about this movie to talk about, from the heart to the action to the humor. Bumblebee was a surprise for sure, but a very, very welcome one. I like Age of Extinction. I really like it. The Last Night, while far from a movie I like, still has a good handful of positives to it, you know? But I will forever stand on the idea that Bayformers should have just been a trilogy. And Dark of the Moon was an excellent end to that trilogy. The stakes weren't as high as Revenge of the Fallen, but the Decepticons definitely took it as far as they could, especially the Chicago scene. The movie was great for the most part leading up to the end. A few scenes were kinda but the action didn't disappoint even once, and the characters were all fairly likable at the very least. Even Miriam, who was supposed to be the quote unquote human villain of this movie, she's far more likable than Galloway from Revenge of the Fallen, I'll say that much. The highway stealth force battle and ensuing Mexican standoff live rent free in my head. But then Sentinel Prime is revealed to be working with the Decepticons, and I have to sit there and watch as he kills Ironhide. And not just straight up killing him either, just a shot to the head or something. No. Bro used an outlawed biochemical weapon to infect Ironhide with a transformer disease that eats away at the body, turning any Cybertronian to rust. Also, fun fact, this is if you've read the comic or the novel, then you already know about this. But remember when I mentioned that the twins are supposed to be in Dark of the Moon? This is where they were supposed to die. So what was supposed to happen was Sentinels revealed to be working with the Decepticons, shoots Ironhide, Skids runs in, screaming like what the hell is going on. Sentinel shoots him. Mudflap tries going in to get revenge on Skid, to get revenge for Skids, and Sentinel shoots him as well, killing Ironhide and the twins all in like 10 seconds. But that was unfortunately cut from the movie because the twins didn't get in the movie because of all the controversy when they came out in 2. Anyway, moving on. Needless to say, Sentinel got what was coming to him at the end of the movie. I don't give a fuck. Okay, fuck him. He deserves to die. And that's all before I bring up what he ordered the Decepticons to do to Chicago.
It is time for the slaves of Earth to recognize their masters. Seal off the city.
The Autobots' triumphant return to the fight, every fiber of their being ready and eager to kill the Decepticons. I felt that. And while scattered, every single fight during the finale was epic. Bumblebee versus Soundwave, Optimus versus Driller, Wreckers versus Soundwave, Optimus versus Sentinel, Autobots versus Sentinel, Optimus versus Megatron versus Sentinel. Hell, even Sam versus Starscream was fun to watch. Oh, and speaking of Sam, he's easily at his most useful in this movie. Revenge of the Fallen had him literally be the MacGuffin and reviving Optimus Prime, which was great. It was really great. But in this movie, he's just a guy who happens to be close to the Autobots, and he makes himself useful to them. You know, throughout the movie, he's finding out information about the Decepticons' plan, tracking down people who can provide intel, communicating with government officials when the Autobots can't. Dylan, the Decepticons' human ally, Sam gets in a fight with him and manages to kill him. And he even provides the Autobots an opening to get into Chicago almost entirely undetected. He's not just some screaming little wimp like people have claimed over the years. He knows what he can do, and in this movie he pushes himself to the limit to help save the world. And to save the woman he loves. In this scene, he's surrounded by 2 Decepticons and about 4 or 5 people who each could easily kill him individually. But what does he do? He immediately tries to run the ones. Sam does not back down in this movie once, and he's all the better for it. To this day, Dark of the Moon is probably my favorite just straight up action film to watch. It's one of my favorite films of all time, and as you've seen, it's my second favorite Transformers film. But there's, of course, number 1. And if you've been paying attention, or if you know me, then you already know what my favorite Transformers movie. Yeah, you saw this coming. The first live-action Transformers movie, my introduction to the franchise, is also my favorite movie in the franchise. You know, just makes sense, right? In fact, not just that, but it's probably my favorite movie of all time. And again, much like with Transformers Prime being my favorite cartoon, being my favorite TV show, Transformers being my favorite movie is saying a lot considering the competition. This is the only movie in the Bayformers saga to have moments where you can just appreciate the scale and wonder of the Transformers as beings. Every transformation is something magnificent and shown off, all front and center. Every design is perfect. Perfect. To this day, this guy is the Megatron of my nightmares. No bowing down to someone of a higher power or letting himself get sidelined. No. This Megatron wakes up from his millions of years of being frozen and immediately goes back to destruction and carnage. And let's not forget Blackout, the first Transformers character to ever appear in live action. And he makes a name for himself in one of the best scenes in the movie, as he lays waste to an Air Force base, leaving almost no survivors. And then there's Scorponok, who has the action scene with the best music in the movie. But all these, even these, they pale, they squeal in comparison to not just my favorite scene in the movie, but my favorite moment in the entire Transformers franchise: Arrival to Earth. I could go on and on about this scene. The music for sure brings it all home, but seeing the Autobots transform from vehicles to robots for the first time in my life, it was the most powerful thing I'd ever seen in a piece of media. And to this day, it is my second favorite scene in all of cinema, only beaten by Portals from Endgame. And the character introductions are also perfect. You truly get a sense of what this small batch of Autobots are like. Which, can I say, after watching a good handful of G1 cartoon, I don't think Michael Bay could have chosen a better lineup of Autobots for this movie. You have Ratchet, Chief Medical Officer of the Autobots, Bumblebee, who's almost always best friend to human characters, Jazz, the Autobots' second in command, Ironhide, who's the most skilled fighter and a war vet, and of course, Optimus Prime, valiant leader of the Autobots. There were even plans to have RC in the film, as she's the most iconic female character in the franchise, like I mentioned earlier. And of course, every hero needs a villain, and this is my favorite set of Decepticons in all the movies. They may not have the personality like in Last Night, numbers like in Dark of the Moon, or put the Earth in as imminent danger as Revenge of the Fallen, but they are imposing forces and far more tactical than the other movies. Bonecrusher doing what he can to slow down and try and defeat Optimus, Barricade isolating and attacking Sam, Starscream destroying the Hoover Dam power supply to free Megatron, Brawl taking on 4 Autobots and the military, Frenzy stealing the show with his espionage scene. And of course, I already talked about Megatron and Blackout. I could go on and on, but by now, I'm sure you get the idea. I love this movie. Transformers is probably my favorite movie of all time. It introduced me to my favorite franchise of all time. And it is, without a doubt, my favorite Transformers movie. By the time this video was up, Transformers 1 will be out in theaters, and I'm going to see it with my friends, like I said at the beginning of this video. And again, like I said, I've heard nothing but good things about it from people who've gotten early screenings. Apart from IGN, but they can't do anything right. At all. I'm really hoping that this movie is as good as everyone's making it out to be, and if it manages to exceed, it doesn't even have to be the best Transformers movie I've seen, because in my opinion that's setting a really really high bar. But if it can exceed even like the top 5 ranking of my Transformers movies, then for me that's perfect. Can't wait to see it, and I'll put up a review after I do. Probably like a week or so later after I let the movie kind of like marinate in my head, if you will. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm gonna put up a review of the movie, and hopefully it's as good as it looks. I'm Sage of Fire. Peace out.
Here's my retort. Hey, watch the paint! Here's my retort. Worthless.
Minosaur destroyed! Total!
Embarrassed for you. Out of the way, blockhead!
That's what I receive this back.
Hey, watch the paint! Get out! Never stood a chance.